If you are over the age of 55, and you have recently experienced the chilling sensation of losing your train of thought in the middle of a sentence, or if you have found yourself staring at a completely familiar object but entirely unable to summon its name, you are intimately familiar with the silent, suffocating terror of cognitive decline. You understand the absolute highest stakes involved, the slow, agonizing surrender of your hard-earned independence, the fading of your most precious memories, and the ultimate, humiliating loss of your own identity. You have likely been told that this mental slipping is just the inevitable cost of growing older, a tragic but normal part of the aging process that you simply must accept. But you must listen to me very carefully right now. The heavy, dark cloud of brain fog that is slowly descending upon your mind might not be a genetic curse, and it might not be the unstoppable march of time. The terrifying reality, recently uncovered by the world's leading neuroscientists, is that the root cause of your memory loss might not even be starting in your brain at all. The biological fire that is slowly burning away your memories is highly likely originating inches away, completely unnoticed, occurring every single morning and every single night, right in front of your bathroom mirror. For the entirety of your life, you have been subjected to a deeply flawed, historically broken medical system that has handed down a sentence of profound guilt to the aging population. When your memory begins to falter, society subtly blames you. They suggest that you simply did not do enough crossword puzzles, you watched too much television, or you failed to keep your mind active. This deeply ingrained narrative is not only incredibly cruel, it is scientifically entirely inaccurate. To understand why you have been misled, we must look at a bizarre historical accident that occurred hundreds of years ago. In the Middle Ages, elite physicians considered it completely beneath their dignity to look inside the human mouth. If you had a problem with your teeth, you did not go to a doctor. You went to the local barber, the same person who cut your hair, because they had the sharp tools required to pull a rotting tooth. Tragically, this ridiculous historical separation persisted into the modern era. We built entirely separate schools for medicine and dentistry. We created separate insurance systems. We trained neurologists to exclusively study the brain, and we trained dentists to exclusively study the teeth, completely ignoring the absolute, undeniable biological reality that the mouth and the brain are physically connected by a massive, high-volume superhighway of blood vessels and nerves. Because of this monumental institutional blind spot, the medical establishment entirely missed the fact that the most devastating neurological disease of our time might actually be, at its core, a chronic, systemic infection. To completely change the trajectory of your cognitive health and halt the destruction of your memory, we must journey into a microscopic world that exists right now inside your own mouth. We tend to think of our mouths as relatively clean environments, especially if we brush our teeth diligently. But the biological truth is that the human mouth is a teeming, complex rainforest of microscopic life, a vast ecosystem known as the oral microbiome. In a healthy mouth, billions of friendly, symbiotic bacteria live in perfect harmony. They help you break down food, they protect your throat from incoming viruses, and they actively manage the acidity of your saliva. But as we age, and as we consume a modern, highly processed Western diet heavily laden with refined sugars and sticky carbohydrates, this delicate microscopic rainforest undergoes a terrifying transformation. The environment becomes highly acidic and deeply inflamed. This hostile environment allows a specific, incredibly dangerous and highly aggressive bacterial predator to multiply out of control. The name of this microscopic villain is Porphyromonas gingivalis, but for the sake of our journey, we will simply call it by its scientific shorthand, P. gingivalis. P. gingivalis is not your average, garden-variety cavity-causing germ. It is a highly evolved, deeply sinister anaerobic pathogen. The word anaerobic is crucial here. It means this bacteria absolutely hates oxygen. It cannot survive out in the open air of your mouth. To survive, it must hide. And the perfect hiding spot, the absolute darkest, most oxygen-deprived environment it can find, is deep underneath your gum line, completely out of the reach of a standard toothbrush. In the tiny microscopic spaces between your teeth and your gums, a space dentists call the gingival sulcus, this bacteria begins to build a fortress. It binds together with other rogue bacteria to form a thick, impenetrable, microscopic concrete wall known as a biofilm. We commonly call this biofilm plaque or tartar, but referring to it simply as tartar dangerously understates what it actually is. It is a living, breathing, hostile military base constructed directly against the delicate, highly vascular tissue of your gums. Once P. gingivalis establishes this deeply entrenched fortress beneath your gums, it initiates a slow, silent, and highly destructive war against your body. The bacteria begin to secrete toxic enzymes that literally eat away at the connective tissue holding your teeth in place. Your body's immune system, recognizing this massive bacterial invasion, responds exactly as it should. It sends an army of white blood cells to the area to fight the infection. This massive immune response causes your gums to become red, swollen, and highly inflamed. This is the condition known as gingivitis, and as it progresses deeper into the bone, it becomes periodontal disease. Now, you might be thinking to yourself that you do not have severe gum disease. You might think your mouth is perfectly fine because none of your teeth are falling out, and you are not in any agonizing dental pain. And this is precisely where the trap snaps shut on millions of aging adults. The early, most dangerous stages of this infection are completely silent and entirely painless. The only subtle clue that this microscopic war is raging inside your mouth is a tiny drop of pink blood in the sink when you brush aggressively, or a slight tenderness when you attempt to floss. For decades, we have been told that a little bit of bleeding from the gums is normal, just a sign that we brushed a little too hard. This is the most dangerous, most catastrophic lie in modern health. Your gums are not supposed to bleed. If you rubbed a washcloth against your arm and your arm began to bleed, you would rush to the emergency room in an absolute panic. Yet we entirely ignore bleeding gums. We must understand exactly what a bleeding gum line biologically represents. A bleeding gum is an open, gaping wound. It is a direct, unhindered portal leading straight into your body's master circulatory system. Every single time you chew a piece of tough food, and every single time you brush your teeth over inflamed gums, the mechanical pressure physically forces millions of these highly aggressive gingivalis bacteria out of their hidden pockets, through the open bleeding wounds of your gums, and directly into your bloodstream. This biological event is known as bacteremia. Once these pathogens enter the bloodstream, they embark on a terrifying journey. They are pumped into your jugular vein, down into your heart, and then forcefully propelled directly upward, straight toward your brain. For a long time, neurologists believed that the brain was completely invincible to this type of bacterial invasion. The brain is protected by a magnificent, highly sophisticated physiological fortress known as the blood-brain barrier. You can think of the blood-brain barrier as the ultimate microscopic security system, a tightly woven mesh of cells designed specifically to allow vital nutrients and oxygen into the brain while keeping dangerous toxins, viruses, and bacteria strictly locked out. But gingivalis is an ancient, highly evolved survivor. Over millions of years, it has developed a terrifying, highly sophisticated strategy to bypass the blood-brain barrier. It acts exactly like a microscopic Trojan horse. When P. gingivalis enters your bloodstream from your bleeding gums, it is immediately attacked by your body's white blood cells, specifically cells called macrophages, whose job is to swallow and destroy invaders. But instead of dying when it is swallowed by the white blood cell, P. gingivalis actually survives inside the macrophage. It essentially hijacks the very immune cell sent to destroy it. It hides safely inside this white blood cell, completely invisible to the rest of the immune system. The hijacked white blood cell then travels through the bloodstream, approaches the highly secure blood-brain barrier, and because it is recognized as a friendly immune cell, the gates of the fortress open. The Trojan Horse is granted access. Once inside the deeply protected, highly sensitive environment of your brain, the P. gingivalis bacteria break out of their transport vehicle and begin to establish a new colony. They set up camp directly inside the soft, vulnerable tissues of your memory centers, specifically targeting the hippocampus and the cerebral cortex. And once they are deeply embedded inside your brain tissue, they deploy their ultimate weapon. These bacteria begin to manufacture and release highly toxic, highly destructive biological enzymes known as Gingipains. Gingipains are essentially microscopic meat cleavers. They are designed by the bacteria to physically chop up human proteins, so the bacteria can feed on the fragments. When these Gingipains are unleashed inside your brain, they begin to blindly chop up the vital proteins that keep your brain cells functioning. Specifically, they attack a delicate protein called tau. In a healthy brain cell, tau proteins act like the structural railroad tracks that transport nutrients up and down the neuron. But when the Gingipain enzymes chop up these tau proteins, the railroad tracks entirely collapse. The chopped up pieces of tau fall apart, tangle together, and form thick, toxic masses known as neurofibrillary tangles. At the exact same time, the brain's local immune system violently panics upon detecting this bacterial invasion. It launches a massive, desperate counterattack, flooding the brain with inflammatory chemicals and producing a sticky substance called amyloid beta in a frantic, misguided attempt to trap and kill the invading bacteria. Does this catastrophic biological scenario sound familiar? It should. The collapsed tau tangles and the sticky amyloid plaques are the exact, defining physical hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. For 40 years, the entire medical and pharmaceutical industry has believed that Alzheimer's was simply a mysterious disease where the brain inexplicably decided to start producing toxic plaques that destroyed its own memory. They spent billions of dollars designing synthetic drugs to try and scrub these plaques away, and those drugs failed completely. They failed because they were treating the smoke while entirely ignoring the fire. The groundbreaking research emerging from international pharmaceutical teams and universities is now pointing to a breathtaking paradigm shift. Alzheimer's disease might not be a mysterious genetic failing. It might be the brain's desperate, highly destructive immune response to a chronic, decades-long bacterial infection caused by gingivalis. The amyloid plaques might actually be the brain's own microscopic antibacterial glue, produced in a frantic attempt to trap the bacteria that you have been accidentally pumping from your mouth into your skull every single morning for 20 years. You are not losing your memory because you are simply getting old. Your brain is slowly suffocating under the collateral damage of an active, highly localized biological war against a pathogen that originated in your bathroom sink. This revelation is deeply terrifying, but nested within this terror is the most profound, empowering hope imaginable. If the cognitive decline you are experiencing is being driven by an ongoing bacterial invasion from your mouth, it means your destiny is entirely within your control. It means that to halt the neuroinflammation, to stop the production of the destructive gingipain enzymes, and to give your brain a massive, immediate opportunity to heal and regenerate, you do not need a miraculous, experimental pharmaceutical drug. You simply need to execute a highly targeted, aggressive biological intervention to completely eradicate the bacterial fortress hiding beneath your gums. But standard brushing is not enough. You have likely brushed your teeth twice a day your entire life, and yet the brain fog continues to descend. Standard brushing merely cleans the smooth, hard surfaces of the teeth. It is the equivalent of washing the windows of a house while ignoring the massive toxic mold infestation rotting inside the walls. To cut off the supply line of these brain-destroying pathogens, we must execute a specific 30-second protocol that specifically targets the deep, oxygen-deprived pockets where the gingivalis biofilm thrives. The absolute most critical window of opportunity in your entire day is the 30 seconds immediately before you go to sleep. During the day, your mouth is constantly moving, chewing, and speaking. Most importantly, you are continuously producing massive volumes of saliva. Human saliva is a miraculous fluid. It is highly oxygenated, highly alkaline, and packed with natural antibacterial enzymes. Throughout the day, your saliva acts like a rushing river, constantly flushing away excess bacteria and keeping the P. gingivalis somewhat under control. But the moment you fall asleep, your biological factory powers down. Your saliva production drops by over 90%. Your mouth becomes a dry, stagnant, highly acidic environment. This is the exact moment the anaerobic bacteria have been waiting for. Under the cover of darkness, in the absence of the rushing river of saliva, the P. gingivalis bacteria explode in number. They rapidly rebuild their biofilm fortresses, they plunge deeper into the gum tissue, and they prepare for the massive invasion into your bloodstream the next time you chew your morning breakfast. Therefore, the ultimate nightly intervention is to violently disrupt this biofilm exactly when the bacteria are most vulnerable, right before the saliva river dries up. We must absolutely master the mechanical disruption of the interdental space, the dark valleys between the teeth. Now, I am intimately aware of the physical realities of aging. I understand that the traditional advice to floss daily is often utterly useless and deeply frustrating if you are managing the severe reality of rheumatoid arthritis in your hands, or if your fingers have lost the fine motor control required to wrap a tiny piece of string around your knuckles and maneuver it to the back of your mouth. The dental industry has handed down this rigid advice without any empathy for the physical limitations of the senior body. If traditional string flossing causes you pain, frustration, or causes your gums to bleed profusely, you must immediately abandon it and upgrade to an oral irrigator, commonly known as a water flosser. This is not a luxury gadget. It is a vital piece of neurological defense equipment. A high-quality oral irrigator requires very little grip strength. You simply point the wand and let the machine do the work. It uses a highly pressurized, pulsating stream of water to blast deep into the gingival sulcus, violently tearing apart the bacterial biofilm and flushing the P. gingivalis out of its hiding spots. It delivers highly oxygenated water directly into the deepest pockets, instantly creating a toxic environment for these anaerobic, oxygen-hating bacteria. By taking exactly 30 seconds every night to power wash the hidden spaces between your teeth, you are physically destroying the military base before it can launch an attack on your brain. Furthermore, we must address the massive, entirely ignored reservoir of these toxic bacteria hiding in plain sight, the surface of your tongue. Stick your tongue out and look in the mirror. If you see a thick white or yellowish coating resting on the surface, you are looking at a massive, sprawling metropolis of bacteria. The human tongue is not smooth. It is covered in microscopic hairs and deep crevices that provide the ultimate breeding ground for pathogens. Brushing your tongue with a toothbrush is completely ineffective. The soft bristles simply push the bacteria deeper into the crevices. You must adopt the ancient, deeply effective habit of mechanical tongue scraping. Using a dedicated U-shaped scraper made of solid copper or medical-grade stainless steel, gently reach to the very back of the tongue and firmly pull forward. In a single 2-second motion, you will physically drag an astonishing, horrifying amount of toxic bacterial sludge entirely out of your mouth. Copper is specifically miraculous for this task, as the metal itself possesses deep, natural antimicrobial properties that physically rupture bacterial cell walls on contact. By scraping your tongue immediately before bed, you drastically reduce the overall bacterial load in your mouth, ensuring that the gingivalis has no reinforcements to draw from during the dry, dark hours of the night. Finally, we must critically evaluate the chemical warfare you are deploying in your mouth. For decades, seniors have diligently gargled with highly commercialized, brightly colored, alcohol-based mouthwashes. The marketing told you that the burning sensation meant it was working. This is a catastrophic, neurologically devastating lie. Commercial, alcohol-based mouthwashes are the biological equivalent of dropping a nuclear bomb on a rainforest. They completely annihilate the entire oral microbiome, indiscriminately slaughtering all the good, highly protective symbiotic bacteria right alongside the bad ones. When you nuke the entire ecosystem with alcohol, you leave behind a barren, highly acidic wasteland. And because P. gingivalis is a deeply aggressive, rapid multiplying survivor, it is the very first bacteria to recolonize the empty space. By using burning, alcoholic mouthwashes, you are actively destroying your mouth's natural immune defense and inadvertently creating a perfect, unhindered breeding ground for the exact bacteria that causes brain inflammation. You must immediately throw away any mouthwash that contains alcohol or harsh synthetic detergents. You must replace it with a highly targeted, biologically supportive rinse. Seek out natural rinses built on the foundation of essential oils like clove, thyme, and tea tree oil, which have been scientifically proven to selectively target and dismantle the P. gingivalis biofilm without destroying the friendly bacteria. Better yet, you can create the ultimate alkaline neuroprotective rinse in your own kitchen for pennies. A simple solution of warm water mixed with a teaspoon of pure baking soda and a tiny pinch of Himalayan pink salt creates an immediate, highly alkaline flood in the mouth. The P per mole of the bacteria absolutely cannot survive in a highly alkaline environment. By swishing this gentle, soothing solution for 30 seconds before bed, you actively neutralize the acids, heal the bleeding tissues of the gum line, and close the open wounds that serve as the doorway to your bloodstream. We have completely unmasked the true nature of the hidden poison driving your cognitive decline. We understand the terrifying biological journey of the P. gingivalis bacteria from the dark pockets of your gums, through the circulatory system, past the blood-brain barrier, and directly into your memory centers. We have laid out the absolute necessity of abandoning painful, ineffective dental routines in favor of painless water irrigation, physical tongue scraping, and deeply protective alkaline rinsing. You now possess the exact, 30-second nightly blueprint to cut off the bacterial supply line, extinguish the neuroinflammatory fire, and give your brain cells the profound opportunity to regenerate and heal. You have now successfully barricaded the front door. You have stopped the bacterial invasion from your mouth dead in its tracks. But a highly secure fortress is completely useless if the enemy is already inside, deeply embedded in the walls, poisoning the water supply. While you have stopped the biological bacteria, your brain cells are likely still suffocating under a massive, heavy burden of microscopic metallic neurotoxins. These are invisible heavy metals, like aluminum and microscopic Teflon particles, that you have unknowingly been ingesting for decades from the very cookware you use to prepare your healthy meals every single night. These metals easily cross the blood-brain barrier and act like microscopic magnets, permanently locking the toxic Alzheimer's plaques directly onto your memory cells. If you want to discover exactly which common kitchen pans are actively leaching these memory-destroying metals into your food, and the incredibly simple, completely natural dietary compound that acts like a biological magnet to pull these heavy metals completely out of your brain, you need to click the video on your screen right now, and I will show you exactly how to execute a deep neurological detox.